there's nothing worse in the offseason than seeing the free agent list and then they put the three little logos of the teams that they might go to.
Yeah.
And the Brewers are never on there. They haven't been on there in 40 years, and that like I just want no, I'm not joking. Like I've never seen the
Hey,
Brewers on competing for a free agent in 40 years. And
Uh,
I just want to compete. Ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, welcome back to This Week in Base Hit. I am your host, Zubaz. That is my co-host, Citizen Clone. Clone, how was your week?
it was a good week. It was a good week.
Was it?
I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
I don't know. Personally, good week. Who knows?
Personally, good week. All right. That's good. You
You
know,
ask me, and I forget what I did the entire week, like immediately.
our
Played some good pickleball. Maybe that's my only story. Anyway,
and you bowled.
yeah, that part didn't go that well. Um, all right, let me see that picture behind you.
So we had a podcast last week that that clearly the YouTube algorithm served up just to Dodger fans. Hopefully we can get
So,
some people on my side. There's one guy
uh,
that said I don't get to talk until we beat the Dodgers, and I was like, we beat the Dodgers 6 times in the regular season. Leave me alone, bro. Come on,
it is
calm
pretty
down.
funny. We were trying to figure out exactly why it got served to more people, and there's all these different theories, and then it probably just came down to like we talked about the Dodgers, and we know that everybody is a Dodger fan, so that's probably it.
Everybody loves the
I do
Dodgers.
have my I
I
do have
mean,
my
won't be baseball be better once everybody's a Dodger fan and all the other teams are irrelevant?
have my hat on, and I even brought a
Who
guest.
the hell is that? That doesn't look like Freddie Freeman.
Freddie Freeman. That's the one from the
He should
game.
have Freddie Freeman should have bobble legs.
Jesus Christ. No kidding, no kidding. But yeah, but we had start well, I figured we were just naturally going to continue the salary cap conversation, but I see what you got behind you.
We can and to be honest, I didn't prepare like I should have, but I did. But there was something you said
Okay.
during our podcast, and I heard it repeated on like three channels, three YouTube
I
channels
know what
that
you're going to
that
say
that
already.
I
Yeah.
watch. That like I feel like I need to give some basic education to folks. I don't mean to. I'm not saying
I
I'm
understand.
smarter than everybody. I'm not saying I'm a teacher, but I do think there's one thing that people keep repeating that they got to stop repeating because it sounds stupid.
Okay.
And it's this trope of why don't the billionaire owners just pony up more money? Like it's just that simple. Like that's how businesses work. And so I just want to break this down because there's some logical fallacies to that in general, but there's
But
also a
you know why we say that though, right? When you look at I mean, there's some rich damn people. I mean, I know you're about to educate me, but I mean, we know the Mets, but we see a lot of super rich people that are involved in these teams,
yeah.
and it doesn't match up with the money that they're spending on the team.
It
Sometimes it does,
depends.
sometimes it
Depends on the
doesn't.
team. Depends on the
Okay.
team. Because that's the other fallacy is that like you can judge everybody based on the owners of the Dodgers or the owners of the A's, right? Like and there's all these different scenarios in between. But I want to take a step back for a second and just
Okay.
talk about MLB ownership first. Because I think the one part that everybody has wrong is they think, okay, this rich guy owns the team because you can almost name owners individually. And the reason for that is MLB has a rule that the controlling owner has to be an individual of some type. Now, they can be the head of a trust or something like that, but with very few exceptions, there's an individual guy, and it is all guys right now since Marge Schott is gone, who
Oh
was the
yeah.
best owner in
All
MLB history, clearly.
right. All
That's a
right.
joke. Um, guys, that's at the top. So the rule is that no more than 10% of your business can be held by private equity. of an MLB team can be private equity for obvious reasons, right? And that the controlling partner, whoever that is, has to own at least like 30%. There is an exception there, and I think it's with the Seidler family because of how their kids broke apart after the death of the patriarch, but I'll get into that in a second. Um,
Okay.
um, so that you have to own at least 30%. No more than 10% can come from private equity, and you can have no more than 30 people on your cap table. Okay, so basically you can't have more than
Oh,
30 people having some interest in the thing.
okay.
Okay, so keep that in mind because also, with the exception of I think the Blue Jays, who is owned by Rogers Communication, they're actually owned by a publicly owned company in Canada, and that went. I'm not going to get into the history of that, but almost all other teams are run by just an individual guy.
Okay.
Um, but there is no team that I'm aware of that's owned 100% by an individual guy. And most of them don't even hold a majority interest, even if they hold the controlling interest. And what I mean
Okay.
by that is you look at like Jerry Reinsdorf, and I'm forgetting Jacob Isham. They both have like 25 to 35% of the business of the White Sox. Or, a lot of like Antanasio type guys own 50%, which means that 50% is owned by a collection of other people. Like just 2 years ago, Patrick Bet David bought like 5% of the Yankees, right? And the reason for this is multi-layered, but a lot of people like the Steinbrenners had their entire wealth put into the Yankees. That's their entire wealth on paper, right? So they were cash poor, but super rich because they own the Yankees. But they can't do anything with that. So the way they make money is they sell off chunks of the team and then they use that money to operate their life. And in that, you got so every team has this really complicated cap table. A cap table is a capitalization table for the people that don't know what it is. It's just the list of the owners of the teams. The most complicated right now, without a doubt, is the San Diego Padres because the Seidler Trust is the controlling partner, but that's just that one brother. And then the other kids own their stakes that I think total 24, 25%. So even with all the Seidlers together, they only own 55% of the Padres. I tell you
Okay.
all that to tell you this. So when the trope of like why doesn't the billionaire just put in more money? It's because think of like Antanasio. I don't know how much of the Brewers he owns. That's not public, but let's say it's 50%. That means if he decides to put in $1 million, he just turned his $1 million into 500,000 because whoever owns the other 50% didn't put in a matching amount. So he literally just cut all his money in half because the business is, whatever it's worth. You put in $1 million, you now have 500,000. Now think about that for the Seidlers. Not only do you have to, is a guy that owns 35% not going to put in $1 million of his own money just to turn it into 350,000. But if you were going to get everybody just to put in their personal money, you'd have to get everybody to agree to put in at their sharing ratio the exact amount of money to it wouldn't work. That's not how it works. So the business itself has to generate enough money to pay for itself. Okay, so now you get into the other part of the argument where it's like, okay, that's great, Jason Zubaz, if that is your real name. But what about the Miami Marlins who go from operating at a negative to go to $55 million profit or whatever it is. That's true too. And so all these teams have shared revenue that comes from the bigger teams help support the smaller teams. But at the end of the day, because and that's just localized revenue, like the Dodgers Yankees still going to make infinitely more money because they have bigger television audiences, they have bigger fan bases. There's other lines of revenue besides just the
That aren't included in the.
that yes that aren't included in the sharing, and rightfully so, right? Because you don't want to limit the upside for a team to build value for themselves. Otherwise, people just wouldn't buy these teams, and it would arbitrarily reduce the valuation of some of the great iconic teams. You don't want the Los Angeles Dodgers to be worth as much as the Pirates. Or I mean, not that you would want to or not want to, but the opportunity cost of doing that would,
Yeah, yeah, got it.
yeah, okay, you get it. So,
All right,
anyways,
you're hitting us with economics. Yep.
so take the Brewers for instance, that top line all in's going to make $145 million. I'm kind of making up that number. It's something close to that, and their payroll is going to be 180. So then you think, okay, well they have a net operating income of $70 million. Actually, it's not that much. I have those numbers wrong because their net operating income was like 35 million. But anyways, so net operating income is really just that. It's what are your revenues? And baseball's a little weird because mostly the only numbers we get are what are your revenues and what is your player payroll. But then there's other things that go into their net operating income, other expenses. They got to pay their concessions people. They got to pay the workers at the Arizona Complex League and the Dominican League. They have to buy the cups that the beer and the soda goes in. Like they have all these other expenses
Yeah,
that
yeah.
go into it.
I mean, it's revenue,
And
not profit.
right, yeah, you got revenue, expenses, and then you have net operating income, which is not profit. And below net operating income, or a lot of people use the term EBITDA, which is just expense, or I'm sorry, earnings before uh, interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. I'm not going to go too deep with this,
You're going
people,
deep, man.
but I want people to understand it because they see
Okay.
that number, and then like you said last week, all of a sudden it's like, oh, so we got Scrooge McDuck over here going diving into a pool of $25 million in coins. But what happens also is you got to realize what's not included in those expenses is any taxes they have to pay, income tax, except for sales tax, which gets figured separately, income tax, real estate tax on their stadium, all those things. Um, any interest on uh, uh, unconventional debt, lines of credit, things like that, which I guarantee you they have a ton because they can borrow against player contracts because player contracts are considered an asset. So they also depreciate those, but that's not a real money thing. But they depreciate contracts like assets. And then amortization, because keep in mind, they still had to get the stadium built. And while stadiums get built mostly with tax incrementalized financing, which essentially means they are paying down their loan with the additional tax base that they've created. So,
Right.
like, they bring more money to downtown, and um, you get the idea. So,
Yeah,
I'm going too far down the road,
yeah.
but they still have to pay for the stadium. Like they don't just get around. It's not like a zero sum thing where the city pays for it all. So they still have to pay uh, uh, debt payments every single month. That's not coming out of that $35 million number. And so when you really think at the end of the day, most of these teams really are break even or negative on paper. Where a guy like Mark Antanasio really makes his money is he's playing the long game because he's hoping to sell this team for 3x 20 years down the road, 10 years down the road. That's when they actually make money. But a lot of these owners are not making a lot of money that are trying. You still have owners, bad, like truly bad owners, like the Pirates owner. You could argue the Angels owner. I flip back and forth on the Angels from time to time that are actually trying
Got
to
it.
pocket some of this money. But for the most part, most of these teams are even big time teams. The team that lost the most money this year will be the Mets because of like how much they're going in. Not coincidentally, they're the one of the owners with the highest sharing ratio of his team, so he can put more of his own money in, Steve Cohen. And so, okay, I know I've gone a long way, but I just wanted to dispel some of that nonsense because it's just not as easy as people think it is.
You're a dork. You're an economics dork. Yeah, yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, let's get it back to baseball. I mean,
Did I
so
go too far? Do you think I lost everybody? Did
yeah,
everybody click off of
you
this
lost
video?
me. I was like swimming and I
Oh,
mostly understand what you're
I
saying.
thought I was being helpful.
You probably are. People are smarter than me, probably understand what you're saying. But
Oh.
the I mean, I'm just trying to tie it back. I kind of know when I said to you like because the Dodgers, if you look at ownership, I think they're the fifth richest team. So then, like, why wouldn't all the other teams that are richest, if you look at the owners? But I kind of know that that's a cheap shot. Yeah, that's not really the amount of money available. I do question like, and I can put the chart up or whatever. When you look at the actual chart coming from MLB of revenue and payrolls, revenue is much higher than what you're saying. There's no team on there, and maybe you're saying those numbers are wrong. There's no team on there that was showing less than 300 million in revenue.
I was
That was
just talking
because
about the
of the revenue
Brewers
sharing.
revenue without revenue sharing. I was just talking about the Brewers
Oh,
revenue.
without revenue sharing.
Yeah,
Okay, but
yeah, yeah.
with revenue sharing, every single team uh, was showing 300 million at the least because of how much revenue sharing has been added into the mix, and that's obviously been done for fairness. And then when you see, yeah, when you see the Marlins, so you tell me in the situation when you see the revenue for the Marlins, that's 300 something million because of revenue sharing, and their payroll is 100 million. Uh, is that what's the deal there?
Well, we could
Just
talk
that
about
people that
individual
shouldn't own
teams,
the
but
team?
let me just ask a logical question just to reset what you're asking. Do you think all small market teams are spending less than the Dodgers simply out of greed? Or do you think there's still
Oh, no, no,
some
no. Oh,
inequality that is allowing big market teams to spend on free agents where small market teams can't?
I mean, none of this is absolute. I'm not saying all small market teams. I'm not
But
saying
you're
whatever.
kind of saying they're all cheap.
I'm asking. I'm not saying they're all.
You're saying they're all
I'm
not
asking
spending
for
their
an
money.
example. I'm saying let's look at an example.
But you want to
I'm
look at
not
the
saying everybody.
Marlins, which
Huh?
Marlins might be the worst example because they're the team that rides the roller coaster more than anybody. Because you know they'll build a World Series team and then rip it down and build a World Series team and rip it down. Like I think the two better examples would be like the A's and the Brewers.
Okay.
So do you think the
I'm not
Brewers
familiar with
owner
those
is just being
situations.
cheap?
No, well, that's what I'm asking you. So are you saying like the Marlins couldn't possibly spend more than 100 million on their team, even though they're getting 300 million in revenue?
I don't know enough about the Marlins, but
Okay.
I know there's
So
bad.
my question would be,
I know there's bad owners on that
okay.
side of things for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're acting strong about this, but like, no, I don't think everything is as fair as it should be. I don't think everybody's greedy, but I do question when you see the revenue that if you actually left revenue where it was, yeah, like Dodgers and Yankees would be running away with it, but there is revenue sharing that keeps it within a certain range. Um,
But still,
and then you see the amount spent,
yeah.
and you see there's a huge like first so in that range of revenue, and maybe you're saying also that there's revenue that's outside that, but in that range of revenue, it's like Dodgers 750 million and Marlins 300 million. That's what they're showing. Maybe you're saying it's bigger than that. And then when you see the range of percentages of your revenue that you're spending, it goes from 90% with the Mets this year to like 20% with the Marlins. So, I mean, that's a huge range too. So, yeah, I don't know
Well,
how
what
much.
is your argument? What is your
Well,
argument that it's fair
I'm
as
trying to
is?
tie it. I'm trying to tie it back to your economics. So, what do you think is going on in some of those small market teams? Would you say like they couldn't possibly spend more money, or should they not own the team because they don't have enough money, or what is the case? Why are they spending such a small
Well,
percentage?
no, but I mean, I think you're hitting on the thing. Like there's shared revenue to get them to where they're at, right? Like the Brewers are where they're at. Could they spend more money? Probably not. Like legitimately, they have the smallest market of all the markets of television revenue and fan revenue, and they are spending one of the most on scouting developmental leagues. They just built that big real estate complex in the Dominican. All of that has expenses to it. I honestly don't think that they could spend much more on their major league payroll. No.
You talked about the A's before, so
Well,
why are the A's bad?
The A's were actually tanking. They were actually legitimately tanking because he was trying to move the team. So like that's a bad example for another reason. And it got so bad that, he got ran out of town with pitchforks and he's in Sacramento for 2 years. So that's what I'm saying is like there's 30 different scenarios here too that complicate things. Like the Seidler family, speaking of 30 different teams,
Padres.
Padres, where they announced yesterday they're actually looking for a buyer for the team. I don't know if it was announced yesterday or before, but um, because they can't get to any sort of agreement, and the Padres have been one of the best spending teams, and actually they're a mid-market team. They were way overspending what they could, and now they are stuck in some of these extended contracts that are making that team at least at least in the limited so that's the other thing. There's a lot of opacity to baseball profit and loss statements, so we can't really actually see a lot of their spending. But there's a few cases that we've been able to get some insight. You can get some with the Blue Jays because they're owned by a public team, but all of their financials for the Blue Jays are lumped under media, and they also own a cable company, so it's hard to decipher
Yeah, yeah.
that. The Braves were publicly owned for a while, and so the Braves are the only ones I know that we've seen an actual profit and loss statement beginning to end from. But then been a bunch of court filings happening right now as part of the discovery of the family fight with the Padres. And I actually think we're going to get an unusual amount of insight into the Padre finances over the next year, which I think could break open baseball. And honestly, it will lend a lot of data for one side or the other with an impending lockout.
Are those rules about private equity and ownership the same in the other sports, the other American sports? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know. I
Um,
don't know. But it
I
does
mean,
seem
I
like it
do.
must kind of be that way because you look at like NFL and none of them are owned by VMG equity partners, like they're all owned by a
Mhm.
dude with the exception of the Packers.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, it's hard. Yeah, I know that there's some cheap shots in there, but I also, well, you're saying you keep saying market, which I feel like is tricky. Small market. It's not just market, right? Because the Cubs were down at the bottom as one of the lowest teams spending as part of as percentage of their revenue, and they're one of the biggest markets and one of the biggest revenue.
But they're not
Uh,
at that part right
what's the
now.
deal with them?
Well, I
Huh?
think you're thinking, I don't know if you're talking about when Theo
I'm saying
Epstein
small
dismantled
market.
Theo Epstein dismantled the team, sold off all the assets to build a farm system. So he was doing it strategically at the time to build up a really robust farm system that grew into the World Series winners that they
Right
became, and
now, they're one of the
they've been spending ever since. They're spending.
percentage of their revenue. They were one of the lowest.
Oh,
They
I don't
were,
know.
yeah, they were definitely bottom 10 in terms of teams and the amount that they were spending per revenue, not in
As
the
a
amount.
percentage of revenue.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
So I'm just saying it's not just market size.
Well, let's keep them spending less because the Cubs suck.
uh, and I know there's some cheap shots in there, but it's also, yeah. I mean, you're talking about the value of the teams. Like we both know, again, like when have you ever heard of somebody like selling a franchise? Man, I took a bath on that franchise. Like the prices that the values that
Yeah.
these,
But
and
that's
I
future
don't know how to,
value. That's
what?
future value.
It's future value. It's future value. I also know, and this is not at all related, if you watch the videos of Dodgers and Blue Jays and you look at the box of the owners of the Blue Jays, uh, they all looked crazy.
Well, what do you mean they look
Not
crazy?
related, but specifically the women, and this is offensive, but Like they were not itching for money. It was like women in furs with so much plastic surgery. It's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
an amazing billionaire box right there.
But they weren't, I mean, that's the owners of Rogers Communications, not even the Dodgers. Like the Dodgers are just like a side hustle for them because, keep in mind, they own all the Toronto teams. So they own the Raptors and
Yeah.
Maple Leafs as well. And they're all lumped into that media division of Rogers Communication. They have to be the richest people in Canada. So like there's something
They
different.
were playing.
But to their credit, like they would have given Shohei 700 million. They would have, given Roki Sasaki a huge contract. They're spending like crazy.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, we continued
So
the
they can wear
conversation
their
this
furs.
week. We
It's
continued the conversation as the week went on. What was the last
no,
thing?
I was going to say they made furs of human hair from the most dangerous game. Like that.
Um, I know this conversation is going to keep going, and you know, I want to be educated on this.
I
Is
think
the
we're
one.
going to get more educated as we're
Yes.
trying to make points against each other.
I also want, well, yeah, and it's not just, I
I'm
mean, like,
joking.
I
I'm
want to
joking.
be fair. I want to also be able to talk baseball. I mean, I'm worried. Well,
You're worried that this is going to
I'm worried the
consume the
whole
whole
year is
season?
going to be only talked about labor, which is crap. And I definitely think that's the owners that are pushing, like, we have to do, like, the owners want us to be having this argument and they want people to be hating the Dodgers, uh, so that they're going to have this fight to
The
justify
Dodgers want us to hate the Dodgers.
again.
That's why they say all the
No.
stuff they do when they get a microphone in front of them.
Talk about comments. There was a comment in there that was exactly right, which is you should not have been watching the celebration of the Dodgers if you did not want to get upset. But I
Calm
understand.
down.
Oh, what?
Calm
You're acting
down.
like yeah, whatever.
No,
But
but no, 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 no. Uh,
there's
I
but there's no
think,
extremes. There's not neither of us, or maybe you are, like, I think it should be more fair.
yeah,
And I think, like, we're in the free agency mode right now and and I fully understand that, like, there are teams that are not discussed or barely discussed at this time because they're not really in the mix, and that's the problem. But I also think, I also think there's lots of ways that the MLB system is better than other sports.
I
And
don't disagree with anything you just said.
I think I don't think so. I guess I would say it could be more fair. Um, I think that they've already come up with ways to make it more fair, and they can make it even more fair. I don't think there needs to be a hard salary cap. Like, I think the market can take care of itself. That they can ramp up revenue sharing, they could ramp up the luxury tax, they could do other things like that that can impact it. But I also think the Dodgers are good for the MLB. I think you sent me, just to peek behind the curtain. You sent me, I said Dodger porn, but the video that talked about, the Dodgers have done a lot of things right, and it's not just spending the money. And there's lots of people that want to
They
just
have.
complain and say, like, it's just money, when you know that there's teams with lots of money that have not succeeded, and there's teams like the Brewers that have succeeded for a long time. Uh, I also wonder. I just think about. I've been comparing it to other systems. Like, I do wonder about NBA has. I I hate the NBA salary structure, but they do have, like, a benefit to trying to keep your players. And I wonder if there's a way. I don't know enough about this. Like, a creative
Yeah.
way that a team like the Brewers might be able to.
They get cap exemptions, I think, for re-signing players that they drafted,
There
which is
is
like,
now already.
yeah, like some, no, no, in NBA. So
Oh
like,
yeah. Well, you
yeah,
can
yeah.
offer. Yeah, there might be, and you can offer bigger contracts. Well,
That's what
because
I
they have.
mean, cap exemptions.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yep. So
Oh
like
yeah.
part of their salary, I'm making this up, but it's like 20% of their salary doesn't count against your cap. So you can give that. Basically, they baked in a way to give people a hometown discount without paying them less.
Yeah. So if there was a way for teams that have their young and up and coming guys that didn't have to feel like they had to move them, I would fully support that. But on the same side, uh, if there is all this revenue sharing, and if you ramped up revenue sharing, there should definitely be a salary floor, because this is part of like if teams are going to not if you're just giving them more money and they're not spending it and they're still going to keep saying like, well, the Dodgers are fucking look at what the Dodgers are doing. Like you could do it, dude.
But it's
Yeah,
like the Paul Skeens situation, excuse me, is a frustrating one if you're a Pirates fan. Even put the cheap owner to the side. Let's say he's even maxing out his money. The problem with Paul Skeens is, you have those three pre-arb seasons where his salary is fixed. But as soon as he hits arbitration, he gets paid based on his performance in relation to other people on his level. But since he's a generational talent, Pirates have no way to keep him because even in arbitration, when he's under team control, his salary is going to balloon to like 30 million. So the Pirates are only going to be able to keep him for 3 years, and then they have no benefit of drafting number one overall, right? Like they almost need to get out of those number one overall picks because they reduce their
well,
their.
that's a whole different other God. We're talking about so many things,
But I mean
and
that's a complicated. I'm just
not as
highlighting
enjoyable.
like that part's broken for small market teams is they can't even keep their talent for the 6 years now. Like they're going to have to trade them at 3.
Hmm.
That's and that's just a real thing. Now it's an outlier because it's Paul Skeens. Like
Yeah, yeah.
like he can't even be comp to anybody else.
I
So
mean,
so
I
they're
mean,
they're going to trade him
the draft works for teams that haven't been good. I mean, it does. It's designed to be that, and they added the compensatory picks that I think have been really smart that they've added for different market things that I didn't even realize
for like
until last
qualifying
year.
out offers that get declined and things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, and you look at the draft and like because I was watching, it's like, wait, aren't the Dodgers supposed to pick? Oh no, because there's another 6 picks that got stuck in for
Yeah,
market.
there's a comp A and comp B picks in first and second round for people that don't know.
So they've definitely like made strides and they've had good ideas. I think they should keep working on it. I don't. I think the idea. I think you and I both agree. Even though last week you went lockdown, lockdown,
If I could take that
lockdown.
back, I would. I,
Okay.
I I was just joking, trying to be provocative. The lockdown would be the worst possible thing for baseball, the worst. And to give a nod to what you're saying, I actually don't really want a cap per se. I just want the ability to feel like the Brewers can compete. And there's nothing worse in the offseason than seeing the free agent list and then they put the three little logos of the teams that they might go to.
Yeah.
And the Brewers are never on there. They haven't been on there in 40 years. And that like I just want no, I'm not joking. Like I've never seen the
Hey,
Brewers on competing for a free agent in 40 years. And
Uh,
I just want to compete. I just want to
oh,
compete.
boy,
That's it.
boy, boy, you. Freddie Freeman feels bad for you. He wants to. No.
Now you're just talking
I.
shit.
I mean, we can keep going, but I still feel like there's a moving target there because it's the question of what is competing. Brewers can compete. Brewers can make the playoffs. And in baseball, if you make the playoffs, you can win the World Series. They haven't won the World Series, but you can win the World Series. We talked about it last week, and you were saying you were shrugging off the playoffs and saying, I want to compete for a World Series. Uh,
I do.
I think you were competing for a World Series. I think the Brewers could have done it. But
Maybe,
anyway,
maybe, maybe. I
um,
mean, I mean, they have a better shot this coming year because they're going to have a little bit of experience under their belt that they didn't have this past year, which I think hurt them for sure.
and I think that we have,
But I
and I
also
think
think the
that
Brewers are clearly the exception, not the rule. Like you saw some
I
Rays
agree.
teams be able to do it, you saw the Brewers teams be able to do it, but yeah, I mean, you don't typically see that.
The Rays were able to do it, and then the Dodgers bought the Rays people and brought them over
They
to
did. They bought all that. See, now I'm
and to
winning
bring
you
me
over to
in.
my side now.
Now,
They did. That's
you
true. They
got
did. Their GM is from the Rays, isn't he?
yeah, you got me distracted.
That's funny. That Kike Hernandez mic drop.
What is it? What did you get me?
That's right. They took their whole team. And you know who took the Brewers? Was the
Oh,
Mets. David Stearns, all those guys are from the Brewers. Their entire front
yeah,
office is from the Brewers.
yeah. The
Yeah, you're not just taking our players, you're taking our front office now.
There you go. I also think that there's a
Disgusting.
perception problem,
And the
and
Cubs took Craig
you know
Counsell.
this is true. You know this is true. Stop. You're talking about the belief of whether it feels like you can compete or not. I think that that is a perception. I don't know that that's the reality. If you actually look at the results from the leagues, because there is a perception that it's more unfair in baseball. But if you look at the number of teams that have made the playoffs over the last 15 years, the number of different teams that have won the championship over the last 15 years, MLB is as good as any of the other leagues.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
The
we forget, and
World
we
Series
forget.
has effectively rotated through the top third of the league. I agree.
And it's not just that. And people have made the stop it.
It
It's people
has.
have made,
Look at the teams. The only mid-market team that's won is the Rangers, and they
there
should
are
be one of the
more
richest
different
teams.
teams that have won the World Series in the last
I
15
mean,
years
you could
that have
probably point
won
to the Royals back
that
in the
have
Lorenzo
won
Kane
football, that
teams.
have won Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, NBA championship. There's more that have won the World Series. It's not, I'm not just making that up.
Yeah, no, I know. But that doesn't mean that it's been a bunch of small market teams winning the World Series.
Okay, so you're saying it's 15, it was 15 different okay.
Yeah, yeah. The only I mean, it's all been big market teams and the Rangers, who should be a big market team, technically. But I mean,
Uh
you go back to the Royals, they won. They're a small market team. So, like, there is one team that got through.
and when we talk about hope and wanting to be able to compete, the Rockies were in the playoffs a couple years ago. How could that have been? I mean, how could that have even been the
It
case?
doesn't even make sense. I saw the standings from that year. I forget what year it was, and you see the Rockies on top, and you're like, oh, this site must be broken. This must be in reverse.
Uh,
Those poor
yeah, it's
Rockies.
crazy. I will say, and we haven't said this yet, but like when I'm feeling bad for you during the free agency because you don't have your little thing up there, and I do understand why that's frustrating. At the same time, there Brewers have there's different ways to win, and Brewers have a different way to win, which means you guys get to be excited by sexy young players that come in and play hard and do all that stuff. And the Dodgers have old beat up guys that run like Freddie Freeman. So you've got guys that you can. I mean, Dodgers are exception to the rule too. But you know,
Yep.
you can have you have teams that are the I should think of maybe the Mets. I don't know. You have teams that are hired guns that maybe you don't have the same attachment to, that you get, and those teams get locked into contracts that they're stuck with guys forever, and they are not, they don't have the flexibility. Like
Yeah,
there's
you're seeing the
problems,
Cardinals pay the price for that over the last 5 years. Yeah,
and
but they also
there's
won a World Series, so
yeah,
but
well,
yes,
but
and I like you mentioned that video I sent to you, just so all of you Dodger fans watching know, like I said it on the last podcast, the Dodgers were my second favorite team all year. So this argument we're having is really like just debating baseball, but they're like the Yankees of those 90s 2000s Jeter Yankees, like they were just buying hired guns other than Jeter. Um, well, no, I mean, I guess they developed Bernie Williams, Mariano Rivera, I think came up.
you're
But
gonna talk yourself out.
maybe I'll talk myself out of it. But like in that era, like every year they were just getting the biggest free agent. But the Dodgers, on the other hand, have done things right in a lot of different directions. Their developmental organization is as good as it gets. Their international scouting is as good as it gets. Their international marketing, like you see what's happening in Japan, as good as it gets. So, like organizationally, they're as squared as way of an organization as I've ever seen. I think the Brewers are exceedingly squared away, but they're just so much smaller. Um,
So
but
let's
like
make
I
it
think
easier because
Antanasio found a market inefficiency where, as opposed to spending $35 million a year on a single free agent playing first base, he's spending $35 million a year hiring 100 scouts in Venezuela, which I think is a smart move. And I think, the Brewers are benefiting from that right now.
we've got
I made
yeah.
up those numbers, by the way.
No, it's fine. We're doing like Crossfire, but there's more that we agree with than we disagree with, and I you know what I mean. I think we both want a system that rewards well-run organizations. We don't want a system that changes it so that the bums are all of a sudden on equal footing just because it was forced. I also, the
I
thing that
agree
I
with that
hate
for sure.
and the thing that I hate about all of this is that I feel like the puppet masters are playing us and getting us to have this argument instead of enjoying just sweet baseball, and they're getting us to try to become experts in the damn economics of the game, which
Who's
you
they?
and we can go back to the speech from earlier on that
Yeah.
because you do like the economics and you understand it, and I go cross-eyed and I'm just like, come on, man, just let's just have fun. No.
But and I don't disagree with you, but I'm curious who you think who benefits about us arguing about it? The players union or the owners or both?
The owners, I think, seed the conversation. I mean, they've been working on it and they continue to work on it. And then it's just and then, and then the media wants something to talk about and they keep it going. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that they play up the inequalities, they play up the like needing to fight it out. And we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's
Well, I
gonna be
do
interesting.
think the problem is a lot of the arguments, just like a lot of the most difficult topics in the world, the two people are not approaching it like this. They're approaching it like this, like perpendicularly as opposed to head on. And what I mean by that is like as opposed to talk about uh, um, you know, billionaire players versus millionaire or millionaire players versus billionaire owners. You're talking about it from like billionaire owners, and I'm talking about it from small market teams, and so like our if you keep doing it talking about it like that, your conversation never actually matches up because you're on terra firma talking about billionaire owners. I'm on the same solid ground on the other side, but we never come to an agreement. I think you and I, let's just make it the goal of this podcast to come to an agreement on what is the actual best solution for this so that we can advocate instead of propagate. That's a word.
You couldn't get yours. Yeah, I don't know that we're gonna come up with an answer, but we've got lots of time to do that. But
But I agree. Let's not talk
by
about
next
the
week,
finances all
talk
year.
less about the fight. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just talk about baseball. There's just not a lot of baseball going on at the moment. But we could talk free agency next week. There's going to be some signings between this podcast and next.
That was that. Oh God, there's so much stuff I did look up. Yeah. Okay, we're
Like
running
what?
crazy,
Oh yeah,
but
we're gonna have it run long. But
I
give me a
didn't talk
taste.
about free agency. Free what?
Oh, you want to talk free agency? Yeah.
I don't know. I just wanted to say baseball versus all the other NBA and NFL, like almost all the free agency that matters is done in like 3 days, right? Because
It happens
there's
quick.
a swarm of players that are fighting against each other for the leftover stuff, and yeah, and baseball, we have this process of everybody's doing the dance, and free agency has been open for 2 weeks or whatever, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what
Everybody's
happens.
waiting for the first person to set the market.
You got a prediction you want to give?
I don't. I'll do predictions next week though.
Okay, I
Once I
do think
can give it some thought.
I've cooled on Tucker, not on Kyle Tucker for the Dodgers, but
Because
I don't think they want to lock into another guy for all that amount of time when they have young guys coming up. And I think, yeah, they were already the oldest team in baseball. They're going to be only older, and they, yeah, I think it's. I think they're going to want to give some flexibility to bringing up their young guys and getting some other guys with.
who's the number one prospect that the Dodgers have?
Well, they got Zaire Hope, but he's still 19, and they got I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Yeah, anyway, both outfielders.
Outfielders.
And
Okay, yeah. So where Kyle Tucker would play. Obviously, Zaire Hope is not going to be up for a couple of years, I wouldn't think. Right?
yeah, they're still young, and so that's what this is kind of the exact same position where they were last year, and that was when they decided to fill that gap with Conforto. And yeah, maybe they'll do the same thing this year and find they'll try to spackle somebody into the spot and they'll hate it. They also got Alex Call, who you love, and
I do love Alex
I don't
Call.
know why they're not giving him a bigger chance. But anyway, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex Call, he's great. Great. Sees a lot of pitches. All right. We'll leave it there. Okay. Next week, we're going to talk free agency. We're done with the finances. I'm sorry about the first 10 minutes. I just had to get it out of my brain and I feel better now. Next week, I'm not going to talk about it at all. We're just going to talk about all the free agents coming to the Brewers. So it's going to be a 3-second episode. See you next week. We're out.